recordings are awesome. Okay. So on y'all's end, right now you have your admin, and there's the 7 of you guys that are in this admin member type. So at this point, I'll just have to create your additional member types and then import everything. That's the only thing that's left. So we've got our event dashboards, which will pull from your event registration forms. And then we have your financial dashboards down at the bottom. So y'all's is of course blank right now. We looked at your account settings yesterday, and I just noted that this is where you can find your account number when you guys start calling into the help team for questions. It's also where you can check how many profiles, custom profiles and prospect profiles you've used in the system. You guys are on the Eastern time zone. Your membership year is going to be January 1st to December 31st, which is what this membership year tells us. I've got your member number on. You're using quick links. I've got your email where reply tos from notifications that are sent from member clicks. This is going to be the email that your members will reply to. And then your billing contact info. We talked about financials and how you can find all of your financials, all of your invoices within the system in your invoice list. We talked about invoice templates and how this is going to be a little piece of homework. I created just a dues renewals invoice template. We talked about how invoice templates only will be needed for invoices other than dues renewals. So the dues renewals notifications will come from that notifications document that you guys create or filled out and sent back to me. So for this dues renewals template, you guys don't need to touch this at all, right? Because we don't need any notifications coming out from here since they're coming out of that separate bucket, which we're going to look at today. But you'll just need to create additional invoice templates for like events, donations, sponsorships, anything else you guys might have in here that an invoice would be created for. We looked at invoice settings, and you guys will just need to pop in here and throw in your logo and the organization information. I actually can probably just do this right now. Is that your logo? Yep. So you'll just need to throw in your organization information, and then you can determine what invoice number you want to start at. We talked about revenue accounts, and I told you guys that I was going to create all your revenue accounts in here. I did make sure I included that code when I created these. So those are in here. And then we talked about your payment processor. I went ahead and put in a demo payment processor, but this will have your credentials for that payment processor in the slot once that's been completed. Okay. All right, then we talked a little bit, or we began to talk a little bit about attributes. And we talked about built-in attributes and how those are going to be items that we can't delete from the system, but we can add on to or manipulate. So like email address, physical address, and phone number, you can have up to 5 different labels for those items. So you can have a home phone, business phone, secondary phone, tertiary phone, and then some type of other fifth phone, fax maybe. And you can do that for a physical address, phone, and email address. We also talked about system attributes and how system attributes cannot be changed at all in the system. We can't even manipulate them because those attributes are what the system uses to track your members' membership period and how much they owe in dues. But I'll show you where those fields are located within a member's profile, so you guys will be able to find those different pieces of information if you ever need them, which you will. And then we talked about custom attributes down here at the bottom. So I can go ahead and create a custom attribute with you guys just to show you what I'm going to do when I import your database. So I'm going to look at your database, and I see that job title is something that you've collected on your members for ice cream. So I'm going to take that title, and I'm going to make a custom attribute for it by selecting Add Custom Attribute. Now, these custom attributes and built-in attributes are going to work directly with your forms. So when we get ready to start asking questions on your membership application, job title might be a question you'll need to ask. If so, we're just going to drag it into the form from a pre-made custom attribute that we're creating right now. So we would name the attribute, which I don't even have to do that. And then we're going to choose what type of attribute we're collecting or how we're collecting the information. Some of these are kind of intuitive, and this will make more sense when we get back to forms or when we get to the forms training. Country is just going to give a list of drop down of all the countries. So obviously you wouldn't need that for job title, but You could say like, what country do what countries do you have companies or businesses in, or something like that. And then they can select multiple countries from that drop down. Date and time would be a useful field if you were collecting like their birth date, because they're going to be able to select an actual date. File will give your members the opportunity to upload a file, so you could ask for their resume. You guys probably wouldn't need to do that, but just an example. Image could be helpful because your companies could upload logos of their company or maybe headshots to include within their profiles. Doing a number field would just give them the opportunity to put in a number, like some type of code or ID. Selection sets are a little special. That's going to be where we can give them a drop down of options to choose from. So it's easiest to search by selection sets in our system. Generally, job titles are just text boxes, but they are hard to search by because you have to start typing in a random word, right, to populate some type of search. Whereas if you have a drop down, you could just choose a drop down option, and it's going to bring up all of the members that drop down option applies to. So in most circumstances for custom attributes, I would definitely include a selection set if at all possible. For job title, the answers probably vary too much, but like for, I'm trying to see if there's one that might make sense. Directory category would be one where we're going to use a selection set to create. State province is just a drop down of states. Text is what we're going to use for this one, which is just an open text box for them to type in whatever they want. And then website would be obviously just collecting a website. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I've created that. So I'm going to continue to do that for the additional fields in your database. Once your database is imported, I'm going to have you guys come back in here and complete attribute security and profile owner attribute security. That's these two boxes or two links right up here at the top. I'll talk more about this once we get to this point in implementation. But basically, this is what's allowing your members to edit information within their own profiles. And then attribute security is determining what your members can see in other members' profiles. So if you had some type of directory set up, you obviously wouldn't want your members to be able to edit information in other members' profiles, but you would want them to be able to see some fields of information. So that's what that attribute security will allow you to do. And we'll just come back to it together because it's a little bit, there's a lot for me to say about it, and you guys would probably forget by the time we got there because it's just kind of a different concept. So I'm going to keep moving and go on to member types. So this is how I'm going to create the member types in your system. So I'm just going to go to database and member types. You guys will probably never have to do anything in here, except for you'll be able to update your pricing. So this is where you would want to be able to, or where you could update pricing. So as an example, I'm going to look at, you'll notice I've created these default settings based on what you guys provided. So we're going to determine our invoice template, our payment processor, the revenue account as to where the money's going. I know that this will change for each member type, and I can go in and edit it once I've created the member types. Your expiration date is date-based. You've got a grace period of 3 months. And then your notifications are all in here as well. So if we wanted to look at these, we would just select edit, and then we could see the actual verbiage that's applied in here. Update that. So before we get ready to launch, you guys will come in here and make sure that all of these notifications look the way that they need to. Then when I get ready to create your member type, I'm just going to say add an organizational member, and I'm going to name it. So for example, we've got supplier 1. And then we've got supplier 1 contact. I'm going to determine whether that is based on just a standard pricing, or if this is going to be based on like some type of attribute pricing, which I'll have to go back into my notes and take a peek at before I can do this. Off the top of y'all's head while I'm creating this for an example, do you guys know how much supplier one pay?
So 15. Hold on, I have to look. I can't think off the top of my head. I think it's like 1,500 or. Jason, do you know off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, no. I think you are right about that number.
That's fine. Can you guys send me that list, by the way? How much each member type pays?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, Jason. So basically,
It is 1,500 for supplier one.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is come through here and I'm going to say what custom attributes apply to this specific member. So not all custom attributes have to necessarily apply to all your members. It looks like for you guys, all of them do, but let's say you needed to ask a specific question of just supplier one that you didn't need to know for supplier two, then we can make it so that that question wouldn't show up in supplier two's profile. So they wouldn't be like, wait, what's this? We've never, this doesn't apply to us. So we would just select these attributes, and then I'm going to select their member landing page just to show you what I'm going to be doing. Oops, hey. Then I'm going to choose like my invoice template, my payment processor. I'm going to select my revenue account for this, which would be due supplier one. And then I'm just going to put in my amount that they're paying, $1,500. So this is where you guys could come back in here and update this pricing if you ever needed to. And at that point, I'm done. So I'm going to do this for all of your member types. And then I'm going to do it a second time to incorporate, for ice cream, we need to incorporate the early bird pricing, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So then I'm going to go back and create duplicate member types for every single one of them, but for early bird, so that we can use that additional member type for the early bird pricing.
Okay.
And then now you'll see.
I just sent you a link to the webpage that has all of the pricing for those member types.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then so then when you guys get ready to launch, you're going to select edit notifications, and you're just going to check and make sure that all of these notifications look just the way you want them to. And that's all we got to do for these member types. So I'm going to be taking care of all this for y'all, but just to show you what I'll be doing and how the process works. All right, any questions on that?
No.
Okay. So now let's jump into how you're going to search your members. So the first thing I want to point out is this search bar over here to the far right. So if I click this search bar, we can search your members by first name, last name, organization, or email. So I could start typing anybody's name in here, and it's going to give me a drop down of any of the boxes that apply to what I've just typed in. So it's going to auto search for us. If Kim is who I'm looking for, I'll click this profile, and it's going to take me directly into Kim's profile. Now the profiles are organized in a very specific way. This box to the far left is going to be all the information in regards to built-in attributes. So what that means is that we've got the organization, the email, the phone number, the physical address, and her name. So those are all built-in attributes that we know the system can hold. Something else that I love about this, and I'll point this out once we get ready to launch again, but to go ahead and show y'all, you will have members once you launch who say, the password reset's not working, or I just can't get logged in, or whatever's going on, it's just not working, especially if you have some not so tech savvy members, which I think you guys said you have. I would not even argue with them and try to tell them that the link is working. You can always just grab their username, and then if you select reset password, you can manually reset their password and just type it in. So you can give them something very generic, kind of like what I did with you guys. I set you all at all caps IAICDV for this specific association, and then you can just send it to them so they can use that to log in. You're not fighting with them. Then in the right-hand box, we've got those system attributes, things like their member number, their member type, their group, their expiration date, join date, member status, all of those things that the system's going to be using to track their membership. You can also view their membership history, which is going to show you when they became a member, how long they've been a member, if they've changed member types, their event attendance, their latest changes to the attributes. So if you guys are all working in here and somebody sees something that looks pretty funky, you could view the latest changes to attributes and you'll be able to see who changed that particular attribute last. And then you can see the last modified date and then also when the profile was created. Then at the bottom down here, we're going to have all of our built-in attributes. And below built-in attributes, we're going to have all the custom attributes. So if I select edit, we can actually make edits to any of that information. Then we can always save. You guys also have the ability to view all invoices for a member within their profile. I love this. You can also view all form submissions that were created within or for that particular member in their profile. You can see what e-list and committees this member is a part of. So those are some social community features we're going to talk more about as we complete our trainings, but that's just going to allow you to see exactly who's a part of an e-list and who's on specific committees. Message history is going to show you all messages that have ever gone out from member clicks to this member. And then you've got some contact preferences in here. Now your members can view all of these tabs on the front end within their profile as well. They can also set their contact preferences. So you'll notice down here at the bottom, we kind of hit it, is the unsubscribe button. That's going to allow them to unsubscribe from all emails from you guys. Even if they unsubscribe from emails, they'll still receive renewal notifications and form confirmations. I always point this out because you guys may have somebody who accidentally unsubscribes from your emails at some point, and they're going to say, hey guys, we accidentally unsubscribed, or they won't even say that. They're just going to say, we're not receiving your emails. So then you can always go in their profile and resubscribe them if they accidentally did that. And then there's just some additional kind of customizations they can make to what type of emails they'll receive. And then jumping back to attributes is going to take us back to that main, those built-in summary, and then also the custom attributes, which will be located at the bottom. Any questions on this profile and how it's organized?
No, no.
Okay, pretty easy. You can also add individuals or add organizations from here. So if you wanted to just manually add somebody into your database, you could do that using these options up here at the top. I would always suggest taking the membership application for them, and the reason why is because that allows you to create their profile, and the system will create an invoice for you for them that you can then send to them in one swoop. So if you have somebody that doesn't need an invoice, adding them manually is a great idea. If somebody needs an invoice, I would always take the membership application for them. And we can go through that process together if you guys have some examples of individuals as we work our way through the implementation.
Actually, one question. If this was an individual that was part of an organization,
I was literally just about to ask.
Is there going to be another tab where you can view all of the other individuals that are linked?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So here is an example that is classic organizationally set up. So they're institution-based. So you'll notice they've got, whoops, I think we looked at them Monday, institution level 1, and then we've got institution member to level 1. So that would be like your broker and then broker contact. If I went into an institution profile, so this is going to take me to a list of all the companies. If I clicked on one of these companies, it's going to show me exactly how many linked members are linked to this company right here at the bottom. It says 5. There's also an additional tab for linked profiles. This will allow you to see exactly who's linked to this company and who the key contact is. And you guys can change who the key contact is if you want to. From here, you can add or create linked profiles. I'm always asked what the difference between those two are. An example would be, let's say you have a prospect in the database and they should have been with a company and they got missed somehow. They're already in your database, so all you have to do is add them as a linked profile. You don't have to create it, right? Because their profile is already technically created in the system. You just need to link it. Creating the linked profile means that there's no profile in your system, period, for that individual, and you need to create their profile from scratch. So if that's the case, you would create the linked profile. So this would be all about the company. The flip side of this is, let's say that I'm in an individual's profile. If I wanted to get back to the company's profile for any individual that's linked to a company, there's going to be this additional big white box in here in the middle that we didn't see a second ago. And this is going to be information about the company. And then you can also view the company's profile from here. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yeah, it does.
Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, let's look at the profile list. So that's going to be the second big green button up here. We can search by everything in this database using our advanced search tool up here at the top left-hand corner. When I select advanced search, this is going to bring up an additional window where I can tell the system exactly what I'm looking for. So we can search by any and all attributes. So at the top, all of these bracketed are going to be built-in attributes. Then we're going to have in the middle here custom attributes, and then down at the bottom are the system attributes. So we can search by any of these different things. We can also search by multiple criteria. So if we're looking for all the expirations, all the people that have expired in the last 90 days that are only admin or only supplier one member types, then we could search for that and find all those supplier ones that expired in the last 90 days. We can add as many pieces of criteria as we want to in here. This match all criteria or match any means that we would be looking, all means that we'd be looking for a supplier one that expired in the last 90 days. Matching any criteria means that they could be a supplier one or expired in the last 90 days. Does the difference between those make sense?
Yes, that's the and or.
Okay.
Can you search by the last renewal, like the last time that they renewed?
Last renewal date. And you can do the last renewal date this year, last year, this month, last month. You can even put in a custom date if you want to. We can also search by form submissions, so who's completed or who has not completed a submission of, and then it's going to be a drop down of your forms. We can search by event status, so you have the ability to give your members a little bit of some event management pieces, so you can say if they registered, didn't register, canceled, attended, or no-showed, and then the event. And then down here at the very bottom, the default is always going to search by active and graced members. If you want to include your lapsed members, you'd have to check lapsed. Pending is not going to apply to you guys, so don't worry about this down here. You can search by deceased members. There's a status that you can give a member if they are deceased. And then lastly, when you delete a profile, you are never actually deleting the profile. It's that delete button for us acts more like an archive, so you can always search them and restore their profile if you need to. Any questions on how we can use that advanced search component?
One question, Adrian. Based on what we've got right now with your membership, if an organizational group is set up and they have individual contacts, the contacts themselves don't have an actual expiration date. It's like derived from the primary contact profile. Is this similar to that in MemberClicks, or does every profile, individual or not, have their own expiration date?
That's a great question. Yeah. So every profile can hold an expiration date, but the only one that matters is the one for the company.
Okay,
so yeah, so it's gonna, and it'll roll over into the individual's profile as well. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So if the individual, like the primary's profile, is updated with a new expiration date, that'll roll over to all of the profiles?
Yes, that's exactly right. Okay. And I think there were a couple other questions that maybe some of you guys had.
I was about to ask something, but I'm good, so never mind.
Okay. Anything else, y'all? Pretty good.
Can the search results be pulled?
Say that again?
Can the search results be pulled?
Yes, awesome. So that's a great segue for us. So after you've gotten the list of individuals that you want to make some type of action to, for example, let's say that we, for some reason, want to contact all the admin or do some type of action to the admin. I'm going to tag all these users. Now there's two options here. One's tag all on this page. This page will hold 25. So if those search results exceed more than 25, then you're not going to capture everybody. So I would always just get in the habit of tagging all on all pages. It'll show us how many tagged profiles we have. Then you'll notice this actions button pops up over here in the right-hand corner. I'm going to go through each of these actions with you guys. We can undelete profiles or delete profiles. We can remove from groups and add to groups. So let me talk about groups for just a second. This is kind of like a big topic that we're going to see pop up throughout every training that we do. So we know that in the system we have member types, right? Those are all of the different member types that you guys have included in that database. When I create all of those member types, the system will also create a mirror image of the member type called a group. So it's going to be called the exact same thing as the member type. It's just going to be located somewhere else in the system. And like I said, it's called a group versus a member type. Groups determine permissions in the system, whereas member types determine the period of membership or the length of membership and the dues amount for that membership. So groups determine permissions, member types determine membership lengths and price amounts. The reason those are two separate things is because your members can only be in one member type at any given time, but they can be in multiple groups at any given time. And the reason that could be beneficial is you guys may have a board of directors, and those board of directors may all be traditional members, and they all may have a profile that's in a member type. But you might want to give them maybe some administrative permissions on the back end, or you might want to give them some special permissions to see content on the front end for just board of directors. So they'd be in their group for their member type, for example, broker or honorary, but then we would also put them in that additional group called board of directors. So now they have extra permissions in the system. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I always get out of breath when I talk about them. You're going to see permissions pop up, like I said, on every training, and I'm going to say, these are the permissions that I talked about for groups. And honestly, if you guys don't have, like if you don't need a board of directors group, then for you guys, the word group and member type can be interchangeable. But anyways, I'll point those out as we complete our trainings. So you can also
I don't know if you did look at the database, but I put that column in that has the group, it has those groups already listed in there. I think you had mentioned that would be the easiest way to go about that, was to already include that in the database when you merged it over.
Yes. Let me find that specific column.
I think it's all the way toward the right.
Is it called groups? Group code.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about. So this is actually going to be a custom attribute. It's groups. The groups that I just talked about is a system attribute. So it's just something the system uses really. This is actually a custom attribute. It's different. So it might get a little confusing. I can still call it group code, but just know that group code and groups are two different things, because your group code, if they're a supplier or a linked member to a supplier, they're just group code supplier. Groups, when you see the system groups attribute, is going to still be supplier one contact, supplier two contact. So they're going to be two different things. Does that make sense to you guys, like what the difference between the two will be?
It's a little fuzzy, but I feel like as you go along, I'm assuming it's going to make sense.
Yeah, and I'll make sure after I've gotten this imported, like I'll show you your custom attribute called group code, and we can call it something different if it gets too confusing. And then I'll show you the system attribute groups, and I'll show you where they're located and what the difference between the two are.
Okay.
But yeah, some things you just got to see to get. So other actions in here, you can change member types. You can change member status. So if a member has a status of lapsed and you find out that they had a family member pass away and you're like, well, gosh, I don't want them to be lapsed if that's going on, you can actually override the system and put them back to active. You can create ad hoc invoices. So an ad hoc invoice would just be like some type of miscellaneous invoice that you would need to create. So let's say you guys have an event and there are some leftover ice cream t-shirts. And one of your members is like, man, y'all, those ice cream t-shirts were just really cool. I have got to get one. Can I buy one? And you say, sure, Bob, I'm going to send you an invoice for $25. Once you pay the invoice, we'll ship the t-shirt to you. So you would come in here, create this invoice. You would say moolah. You're going to select an invoice template. You're going to put in that the amount's $25. The description is the line item on the invoice. So you would say ice cream t-shirt. And then you would select a revenue account for where that money is going to go into. And then at that point, you can add additional line items if you need to, or you can go ahead and create that ad hoc invoice. So that would just be any type of like miscellaneous invoices you would need to create in the system. Exporting allows you to export these members. So if I wanted to export all 7 of y'all, I would use my actions button, select export. Now it's not just going to export everything. I actually get to determine what I want in my export. So I don't have to filter through all of the extra crap that's in here if I don't need to. So we could just call this test. We're going to name our export name, or I'll call it admin. And maybe I only want y'all's first and last names, your organization, your email, and your member number maybe. Or maybe I want your username, so that way I can just send you all your usernames, and we can have a chart that we come back to see. Then I would hit export 7 profiles. Now, I would have to say 9 out of my 10 associations at this point give me a call and say, Adrienne, the export's broken. Nothing happened. It's not going to automatically download to your computer. You'll actually now at this point have to come under the reporting tab, exports, and here it is. So that's what we've named it. I named it admin. It tells me what type of export type it was. It tells me that it's complete. Now, if you export a lot of members at one time, you may come in here and this may read processing, and you may not see this green download file link. If it reads processing, it's because the system is still creating the export for you. And you just need to wait a little bit and keep refreshing the page. Once you see the green download file, you'll be able to select it, and it opened it in another screen, but here's that export. Easy peasy. Okay.
How long do those exports stay listed on that report?
I think only like 24 hours. I've come in here and sometimes I'll see them hanging out for a couple days, and sometimes I see them gone the next day.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have an exact timeline. But I do know that it only fits. So like one day if you're doing exports, I think it only fits like 6 exports in here at a time. So that's something else to keep in mind. It's not going to create like additional pages for you in this area. It's just going to cut off the last one that you did if they start building up. So you may see. Do what?
you'll always be able to see your current one. The earliest one will drop off.
Right.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to that profile list. So then one other action. Now, one thing I want to point out is you'll notice that I navigated away from the profile list. When I came back, you'll notice those 7 people are still tagged. If I walked away and came back 10 years later, these 7 profiles will still be tagged. So before you get ready to do a new search, always make sure you untag, and start with 0 tagged profiles. If you don't, you are going to end up accidentally including people in an export or some type of action that you're taking that you didn't mean to include. Okay.
So you just untag them by clicking on that little, oh, I see, okay.
And untag. So now I've got 0 tag profiles, and then do your new search and then tag fresh. The reason I emphasize this is because I had one guy who forgot to untag, and he didn't look at the number where it says 7 tag profiles. We had just sent all of, we had just sent all the invoices to all of his members, and then he got in here and started playing around, and he tried to move one member type, but accidentally moved every single member into one member type. And because he didn't start with fresh untagged profiles, and that caused not awesome things to happen. So that's why I always want to point out, make sure you're starting fresh and check that you have 0 tagged profiles. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And also it'll show you like, if I hit change member type, I think it says change 7 profiles to prospects. So it shows it to you here as well. So if you mess up, it'll prevent you from doing that. All right, the last action we can do is contact. So this is going to allow you to send an email to whatever members you have tagged here. So you'll notice I've got 7 tagged profiles. I'm going to select actions and contact because I'm ready to email y'all. You'll notice it only brings over 6. That's because it's not going to bring over the people that do not have email addresses in their profile. One of the profiles is mine, and there's no email address in it, so that's why it didn't bring me over. Once you're on this page, you are now in the contact center. We're going to talk about this contact center more on the content training that we do next time. But just to go ahead and point out a couple things while we've got time, I'm going to create some saved templates in here for you guys. It'll always look like this. So if you want to see templates, you'll always have to select show. You don't have any in here right now, but I just want to point out you'll always need to show to see if there are any templates in here. You'll be able to either A, select a template, or B, create your message. And you can either send the message now, or you can schedule to send it at a later date. And that is how you can select a list of members in the profile list, bring them into the contact center, and send them an email. You guys are going to be doing this a lot, especially when we get ready to send out the welcome email to the members.
Will their email addresses be just their single email address and they'll each leave their own, or will everybody see all the emails? Will there be in a 2 or a blind carbon, or sending out individual?
This will be sending them out individually to every member. So it's, our system actually does some really cool stuff. So like, we purposely don't send out mass emails because that increases the number of the emails that are going to wind up in a spam folder. So our system will send out an email to each individual one at a time. So it's not even like they're blind copied. It's literally just sending out individual emails. And with that being said, if you're sending 6,000 emails, it may take an hour for all 6,000 of those to get out because it is sending them out individually. But like I said, it's going to prevent them from winding up in spam folders. One other thing I wanted to point out to you guys is with this advanced search function, I forgot to mention this. If y'all find that you're doing the same search over and over again, so let's say that you're constantly searching by that renewal date, last renewal date of 90 days, and you're constantly only searching to see, you know, member type if it was the supplier one. So let's see, this is just something you guys keep searching by. Instead of having to come into advanced search every time to do this, you'll notice there's this save criteria at the bottom left-hand corner. If I select save criteria, I can call this like supplier one renewals. And I can save this criteria. So now when I come into the system, you're like, okay, I need to go pull this export. I'm going to go to my profile list. Instead of having to go through this advanced search, I can just use this drop-down arrow. And there's that supplier one renewals. All I have to do is click that, and it's going to bring that list up for me. That list is dynamic. So if if people are taken away from that list or added to that list between the time that I last ran it, it's going to update automatically. Does that make sense? Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. We can make some examples of some searches together, because once your database is in here and we look at this again, you may say, Adrian, we're, constantly doing, these are the main reports that we're constantly pulling. And then I can come in here and configure some saved templates for you guys, so you don't have to do it. You'll just use the drop down, select the template that I've created for you, and that'll keep you from having to use that advanced search function every time you're in the system, pulling reports. And that is everything to finish up our database training. Any questions on what we covered today or Monday?
If you want to be able to show like a committee how many people have like registered for an event, would you do that, the search criteria thing, and then like send them a link? Do you have that capability?
We don't have the capability to send them a link, but in our committees, so we can create committees in the system where you can add people to the committee, and you can actually share files. That's one of the perks of having a committee, is it's a safe place for the members of that committee to share files, and nobody else is going to see them. So what I would do in that instance is I would do an advanced search, export the list, and then share it in the committee component of the website.
Okay. I feel like it's like if it updated in real time, like you were saying, it's like dynamic, that would be really helpful, because then you wouldn't have to keep uploading it.
Yeah, if your members had administrative access, they could come in here and they could look at that, but it's only for administrators, not for members who don't have access to the admin side of the site.
Okay.
Oh, this keeps popping up. Any other questions?
I
just have a quick question. I was wondering if MemberClick has the capability to do automatic renewals for dues.
They do. There's some additional paperwork that has to be filled out with HART, as well as some additional fees that go along with that as well, but we do have the ability to do automatic renewals. Jason, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think you might have touched briefly on this earlier. We have a couple of groups where their membership price is determined by certain factors that we use as attributes in their profile, like say number of employees or calendar sales. Are we able to set up dues rules so that it pulls that information from their profile when creating their invoices?
That's exactly right. So we have what we call attribute-based pricing, and I'll create a member type with attribute-based pricing. And then within the profile, I'll tell the system, okay, for this member type, you need to pull from the attribute how many employees. And then I say, okay, if this company has 1 to 50 employees, they pay this amount. 51 to 100 employees, they pay this amount. 100 to 200 employees, they pay this amount. And we'll break it out that way, and the system will read the response from their profile to determine the amount that'll need to be they'll need to be invoiced for.
Okay.
I'm going to set all that up for you. I just need to make sure that the fields that pricing is based on. I just will need to make sure that those fields are in the database already, which I'm sure they are. And then before we launch and create invoices, I'll probably just make sure that all of those fields are completed, up to date, all that kind of stuff.
And we can set these attributes to, not being visible to the members themselves. Say if we didn't want them to be able to, choose their own member setting, basically, by altering the number of employees, so we could set it up so that only we can see and edit those attributes.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So in the attribute security, well, that would be in the profile owner attribute security. So just continuing to use that number of employees example. If you wanted them to not even know that that attribute existed, we could hide it completely. If you wanted them to know that it existed, know that it was there, but not edit it, then we can give them the ability to see it, but not make changes. And then if we wanted them to have full access to edit it, then we could set it at that. So we can really, per every attribute in the system, you guys will decide whether they can see it, only edit it, or not see it or edit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I have.
Awesome. Ladies, y'all got anything else for me today?
I think we're good. Thank you so much.